Welcome to the Hashimoto's Doctor Podcast. You're now part of a growing community of people determined to take their health back through education and self-empowerment. But because of the healthcare system today, we don't have access to the types of healthcare that we want. So we have to do things differently. We've got to do things smarter, and we do that by becoming our own advocates. This podcast will give you the perspective and thoughts of one of the world's leading Hashimoto's doctors. So let's get started. Hi everyone, Dr. Shook here. I hope you're doing well today. In today's podcast, I want to continue our discussion of gluten. I really want to dive deeper in this with this topic over the next few podcasts to help everyone understand this correlation anyway with celiac disease, which is a full-blown immune reaction to gluten that results in destruction of the intestinal lining of the small intestine and promotes what we think or what we commonly refer to as leaky gut. In the scientific literature, you will hear that permeability of the gut wall or that breaking down of the gut wall referred to as intestinal permeability. And I want to just show you guys and talk to you about some of the literature and the research that shows these correlations, right? Where if you see someone with celiac disease, you'll also see these other things occurring. And correlation doesn't always mean that it causes, that just because they happen at the same time that one causes the other, okay? It doesn't mean that. And I want to clarify that because there's some people that are, very, very statistically minded and, we don't have every single detail of every answer, but guess what? No one does in any branch of medicine or healthcare or any of that. And, this obsession with evidence-based approaches, I understand we all want to have the best outcomes possible, but the obsession with evidence-based approaches is really it has it's valuable if you can do that type of research and data analysis, but it's also I think that it will exclude a lot of valuable tools and information if we only allow ourselves to consider things that have double-blinded randomized controlled trials. And you can't fit every type of healthcare or problem into those types of studies. That works really well when you're trying to look at one group of people that have, the 50-year-old white male with a certain body mass index that has high cholesterol, and you're trying to evaluate cholesterol levels, one single biomarker, and see how it changes with one pharmaceutical intervention, and then you reassess that at a later time. That's a model where you have fewer, where you're just looking at very few variables and how one drug or intervention could change those things. That fits much better into those types of controlled trials. When you have people that have autoimmune diseases that can be driven and stimulated by probably hundreds, if not thousands of different things, it doesn't lend itself too well. And then good luck trying to control what everyone's doing. With dietary change, with dietary intake, with lifestyle, with nutritional supplementation. I mean, good luck. It's almost impossible. So, we see clinically lots of value in some of these things that I'm going to share with you, and I think that we'll get better at fleshing out and really getting very more clear information on these dietary and different types of drivers of what we think drive Hashimoto's and autoimmune thyroid diseases. As we have, more data collected and it can be kind of better mined, I guess you would say, probably using things like artificial intelligence, quite frankly, and some more sophisticated and advanced statistical and data mining, as we call it, techniques. Anyway, I digress. What I want to talk to you about today is really, it was a study that was done this is a more recent study. In some of my previous podcasts, I talked about the connection between gluten, celiac disease, and thyroid function. Those studies were done in 2001, which is still fairly recent, and this study was done in 2008, and this was from the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology, and metabolism. And this was, what they did was they looked at, there were 14,021 people with celiac disease, okay, confirmed celiac disease. And what they found was that of those 14,021 people, that they had a 4 times greater chance of developing hypothyroidism than people that didn't have celiac disease. So a 4 times increase. So if you look at people without celiac disease and people with celiac disease, you're going to have a 4 times greater chance of developing an autoimmune thyroid condition. Now, the interesting thing too here was they broke this out into looking at and comparing it with adults and children with celiac disease. And they found that children with celiac disease had a 6 times increase of developing hypothyroidism. And what they primarily looked at was they weren't looking at autoimmune thyroid disease. If I misstated that, they were looking at hypothyroidism. So hypothyroidism is medically defined as a high TSH, okay, high thyroid stimulating hormone. It's produced by your pituitary gland. That's how it's defined. And so what they looked at was they saw that these people had a 4-fold, if they were adults, 4-fold greater chance of developing hypothyroidism, and for children it increased to 6 times. So it's a really interesting study when you start looking at some of these potential connections. But what I wanted to reinforce and restate the fact that just because they happen together does not mean that there is causation, that one causes the other. But we see very, very commonly that when someone has thyroid dysfunction, if they're hypothyroid, even if in the absence of autoimmune disease, removing gluten seems to have a positive impact in a lot of people. And we see that clinically. I think more and more research is showing us that there are some potential problems there. And as I get more of that information and have time, I'll share it with you guys in a podcast. But I really wanted to drive this home because so many people are confused about gluten. They're confused about gluten. And it's not bad for everyone. It's very rare that any food is bad for everyone. I can't really say that I know of any food that's bad for everyone. So, gluten-free diets are absolutely something that you could try if you have thyroid dysfunction and just see how you feel and do. So anyway, I just want to share that with you today and let you know that there's definitely this correlation. And if you have any questions or anything, please do reach out to us. Let us know. Listen to the 2 previous podcasts where I talked more about a gluten-free diet for 1 year, when people went on it for 1 year, and then also I discussed another study where they were looking at the diet with gluten, celiac disease, and thyroid function. So anyway, if you have any questions, you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out to us. I appreciate you hanging out with me today, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thanks. Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed hanging out behind the scenes with Dr. Shook. You can also talk with and learn from Dr. Shook through Facebook Live on our Facebook page at the Office of Dr. Brad Shook. Don't forget, you can also get access to our videos, guidebooks, and thyroid programs at www.drbradshook.com. Oh yeah, and don't forget one more thing. We can change the world one person, one family, and one community at a time. Until next time, remember, today is your day, and no one will tell you who you are and what you can be.